Okay, committee members and participants, we are now live.
Good morning, everyone. It is April 18th, 2023. This is a continuation of our public hearings on the budget process. And before we get started, I will recognize Mr. McDermott to read a very important announcement.
Due to the continuing threat of public health from COVID-19, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of City Council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, the Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on phlcouncil.com.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. Can you please read the roll so that we can establish a quorum, and will members please say a few words so that your image appears on the screen?
Councilmember Bass. Councilmember Brooks.
Present.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, Ann.
Councilmember Gautier.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, colleagues, and everybody watching. Present.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Councilmember Harity.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Lozada. Councilmember O'Neill. Councilmember Phillips.
Good morning, present.
Councilmember Squilla. Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Good morning, everyone. Present.
And Chair Councilman Jones.
Present, and good morning to everyone. This is a quorum has been established, and this is a continuation of a public hearing of the Committee of the Whole regarding bills number 230, 144, 230, 145, 230, 146, 230, 147, 230, 148, 230, 149, and resolution number 230162. Mr. McDermott, can you read the titles of the bills?
Bill number 230144, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2024 to 2029 inclusive. Bill number 230145, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal 2024 capital budget. Bill number 230146, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2024. Bill number 230147, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Wage and Net Profits Taxes by revising certain tax rates under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 230148, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-2800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority Tax on Wages and Net Profits to provide for the continuation of the tax and to make other conforming changes, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 230149, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-2600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes by revising certain tax rates under certain terms and conditions. And resolution number 230162, providing for the approval of the Council of the City of Philadelphia a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2024 through 2028 and incorporating revised changes with respects to fiscal year 2023, which is to be submitted by the mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority. The authority pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement authorized by an ordinance of this council approved by the mayor on January 3rd, 1992 by and between the city and the authority.
Questions, sir?
Yeah, just want to see about them.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. So we will be hearing this morning from first the Commerce Department, then the airport, and then Mural Arts. This afternoon we will hear from the fire department, and we will have public testimony. Mr. McDermott, can we introduce the first panel to testify?
The first person to testify from the administration is Ann Nadal, Director of Commerce.
Welcome, Ms. Nadal. How are you? Are you logged in?
Yes, here I am. I apologize. I thought I had unmuted myself. Good morning. Um, Good morning, Chair Jones and members of City Council. I'm Ann Nadal, Director of Commerce. Leader Jones, if I may, I would like to first take a moment for the record to thank Council President Clark for his support of commerce through his long and impactful tenure, leading, advocating, and holding the city accountable to grow our economy, revitalize our neighborhoods, and build generational wealth for Philadelphians. The policies and investments put in place under Council President's leadership will continue to help build economic growth in neighborhoods across the city. And on behalf of all of us at Commerce, we thank him for his leadership in pushing us to think outside the box to the benefit of all Philadelphians. And we will continue to build on the strong foundation established by the partnership with Council President Clark and all members of Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And we hope that he is watching this somewhere remotely and heard those words. And we ditto that in council. We agree. And if there was a standing vote, we would. So with that, can you begin your testimony?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Leader. I am now pleased to provide testimony on the Department of Commerce's fiscal year 2024 operating budget. Joining me today are deputy directors and senior leaders of the Commerce team. The Department of Commerce works to advance inclusive economic growth for both residents and businesses across the city. To extend the reach of our impact, we partner with and invest millions of dollars in community-based organizations that increase equitable access to opportunities, trusted guidance, neighborhood economic development, corridor improvements, and help us reach businesses where they are. For example, the North 5th Street Revitalization Project receives funding support from Commerce, which helps sustain their daily operations, and in turn, they are able to help hundreds of businesses in Olney, one of the most diverse zip codes in Pennsylvania, grow with access to resources and opportunities. Commerce also helps businesses thrive with access to capital, financial incentives, workforce solutions, and contract opportunities. And we are strengthening our citywide alliances to increase economic opportunities for people who have been historically underserved. A few of our notable accomplishments in FY23 are as follows. Commerce launched several programs to increase access to capital for minority-owned micro enterprises, including an innovative incentive grant for our business lending network, Boost Your Business, and the Commercial Real Estate Acquisition Loan Program, which recently allowed a business at 63rd and Lancaster, Cookie and Flava, to purchase her own building. We invested in safety improvements by providing nearly $900,000 in corridor safety enhancement grants to community-serving nonprofits, enhancing a positive atmosphere of public safety in and around business districts. And with the support of Council and the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative, Commerce enhanced the Business Security Program to cover up to 75% of the total eligible cost for businesses citywide, and for businesses in targeted areas selected by crime data, up to 100% grant will be offered. NPI has also allowed Commerce to triple the number of neighborhood economic development grant awards in FY22 and FY23. In FY22, Commerce awarded $4.8 million to 15 nonprofits that are building commercial development projects, which are projected to create more than 600 local jobs. Examples of this include the Weaver's Way Co-op that will open in Germantown later this year, and an early investment in the Africa Center on Chester Avenue. We have also hired a nighttime economy director to continue to position Philadelphia as a 24-hour city, leading public engagement efforts and developing a strategic governance plan for the nighttime economy. As we invest in the growth of businesses, both small and large, we are also improving the physical environment where businesses are located by planting trees and keeping commercial corridors clean. The PHL Taking Care of Business Clean Corridors program continues to employ more than 200 cleaning ambassadors across 38 nonprofit organizations and Black-owned businesses, serving 85 commercial corridors across the city. An example of the impact of that program can be seen in one of those ambassadors, hired by the Greater Philadelphia Community Alliance in Point Breeze, being recently promoted to that organization's corridor manager. And while we acknowledge that developing Philadelphia's workforce and talent pipelines are crucial to our business growth and retention strategy, we launched in March the Quality Jobs Program to incentivize businesses to create new full-time employment opportunities that pay a living wage and provide health insurance. We continue to invest millions of dollars in workforce development initiatives for organizations that can prepare and connect Philadelphians to career pathways within world-class business sectors, including the life sciences, cell and gene therapy, technology, manufacturing, retail and hospitality, and the creative economy. The proposed fiscal 24 general fund budget for the Commerce Department totals $46,807,000, an increase of over $908,000 over fiscal 2023. The increase is primarily due to additional funds for creating new opportunities to help businesses thrive in Philadelphia through the Quality Jobs Program and the Business Resource Navigator, expanding diverse contracting opportunities to grow capacity among BIPOC contractors and businesses through public-private partnerships, building capacity throughout the Commerce Department and retaining existing employees through a citywide pay increase, and offsetting the increase in labor and material costs due to inflation for the PHL Taking Care of Business program. In FY2024, the Department of Commerce will continue to serve as the economic catalyst for the city of Philadelphia, helping businesses thrive. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning on behalf of the Commerce Department, and we welcome any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. There are a few questions before I turn it over to my colleagues. There are over 100 commercial corridors in the city of Philadelphia. Many of them took a hit with the pandemic. Many of them took a hit when there was social unrest. And as we look over this current situation where retail theft has become an issue, not just downtown, but in neighborhood commercial corridors and fast food restaurants, some of which are closing at an astonishing rate. It's my understanding you received a $2 million grant from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Can you describe what that grant will do, specifically to talk about how we keep some of those small businesses safe?
So we did receive additional monies for the camera program through the NPI program, thanks to Council President Clark and to you. Those dollars will be going to increasing the percentage of the cost that is covered by the city for installing camera programs. Before it was 50%, now it is 75%, and in high crime areas, we will be matching up to 100%. And those areas will be announced within the next couple of weeks.
Are you receiving feedback from small businesses about the issue of retail theft? In a prior budget hearing, it was a big area of discussion. I remember Member Bass and Member Harity and others speaking to that. What are you hearing from small businesses?
We are hearing the same concerns, both from small and large businesses, but it is definitely having an impact. I know it's been the subject of a number of council hearings. We have been working with the police districts and our commercial corridor managers to make sure that businesses are getting as much information about programs that are available to them, tip sheets on how to make their stores as safe as possible. But it is definitely a concern, and it is definitely impacting small businesses the most.
All right, and we hope that you will be working with the police to work with those cameras, to work with those businesses, to work with prosecution and holding people accountable for those thefts. And so my second question will be, I understand and have met with your new nighttime manager. This is important to me because I hear from young millennial types and those people working downtown, and their criticism tends to be that Philadelphia lags behind Washington, D.C., New York, and other municipalities in its nighttime economy. Can you speak to how that is going to work? And in Washington, D.C., they have a robust night life after 5 o'clock, particularly on a Friday or a Saturday. How are we going to compete? And what will that mean to small businesses in Philadelphia?
Let me thank you for that question, Leader Jones. And let me just tee this up, and then I'll turn this over to Dawn Somerville and to Raheem Manning. First, a huge debt of gratitude to Councilmember Thomas and to Council for having established the task force on nighttime economy that really focused on this section or this sector of our economy that had not been served, at least by the Commerce Department, in a consistent and strategic way in the past. That task force led us to receive funding to establish the Nighttime Economy Director, Raheem Manning. And I'm going to now turn it over to Dawn and to Raheem to talk a little bit about some of the findings from this year's listening tour. Raheem's been with us since, I believe, August, and sort of the steps forward. So, Dawn.
Thank you, Director Nadal. Good afternoon, Councilman Jones. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
State your name for the record, please.
Absolutely. Dawn Somerville, Deputy Commerce Director, Department of Commerce. I want to echo Director Nadal's remarks, and again, thanking Councilman Thomas' office and the hard work through the Arts and Culture Task Force. Without him, we would not been able to stand up the work that we are doing in this space. Just real high level, then I'll turn it over to Raheem to briefly give a couple of remarks. But within the first year, when this role came into place in August, we said that we would do listening tours, which we've done. And that's the basis of first hearing what the city, hearing from the small businesses, and we've done 80 plus listening tours and stops throughout the city and talked to over 200 businesses that we have engaged. And this will help frame has helped frame the governance plan, the structure of a governance plan that will be released later this summer. To your point, Philadelphia, this is overdue. A director for night economy is overdue. Philadelphia has a vibrant city and absolutely a vibrant nightlife that has to govern as it should when the sun goes down. And Raheem has been put in place to help us to understand what that looks like and to help guide us through that. With that, I'll just turn it over to him just to give some feedback on what he's hearing from the small businesses and how this impacts small businesses as well. Thank you, Raheem.
Thank you, Deputy Director, Commerce Director Dawn Somerville. Thank you, Director and Nadal, and as well as Council Majority Leader Councilman Jones. Again, want to start off by thanking Councilman Isaiah Thomas and his team for really supporting this effort and also just being there throughout the whole process and making sure that we are being intentional about how we look at this new sector in our city. To echo Councilman Jones, yes, Philadelphia has historically been behind when it looks at developing and investing into its nighttime economy. So it's exciting to see that we are now taking this as one of the key areas for growth and development, because a lot of our small businesses and a lot of our entrepreneurs are operating after 5. And so that the city's supporting and providing development there. To just talk about some of the listening tour stops that I've made, and they've been very pointed, from our corridors to some of our specific minority operating businesses, right? So Black and brown business owners and entrepreneurs in nightlife and entertainment. We have a stop coming up that's going to focus on LGBTQIA entrepreneurs in nightlife and entertainment, our adult entertainments, our nightclubs, our bars, but also just our third shift workers as well, right? Our nighttime economy encompasses more than just one facet. It really weaves through all the things that this city does, even from sanitation and streets and all the other departments. Some of the things that we're addressing, and again, that we are looking to address, and that I'm hearing from our listening tour, is issues of safety, issues of how we deal with trash, issues of investment, diverse investment in increasing equity in our nighttime economy, and then also direct support from the city I think one thing we do well as a city in the Commerce Department is invest in our businesses and our small businesses in our high growth areas. However, the nighttime economy has never been viewed as such until we have brought on this position, this role that I'm championing now. I think I would like to just point out to yourself and to other council members, I think one of the biggest things that, again, I'm pretty sure you all are aware of is that our nighttime economy will not flourish until we tackle the issue of safety overall. However, there's two parts of safety. There's an issue that we're dealing with nationally, gun violence, but that's not the biggest part that we need to focus on, in which our listening tour has been revealing, is that it's the perception of safety. People feeling unsafe when it may not be the reality. So one of the big things we want to do here at the Department of Commerce is programmatic things that are going to let people know that you can have safe fun after 5 in Philly, whether that's working and commuting to and from work, using our public transportation, or if that's going out and enjoying yourself and having dinner. So again, we have a lot of programs that we're looking to roll out that I have presented to Commerce leadership that they've been backing, and to you guys, some of the partners over at council, and also, conferring with Councilman Isaiah Thomas's team. And I think that's the big focus here, is just controlling the narrative and direct investment into the nighttime economy to see it grow so that we can be competitive with a New York or DC or our municipalities that are really close by.
So I wanted to get that on the record because I was excited when you gave me a briefing, and Ms. Somerville is correct. This is long overdue. Whether you talk about Main Street to Market Street, whether you talk about Relish closing, and places like Booker's in the 3rd District, we have to create a reason, rationale for people to continue to spend money, support businesses, hire people, pay taxes in the city of Philadelphia beyond 9 to 5. And so I'm encouraged by it. I am going to turn it over now to Member Gutierrez. Member Richardson, I'm sorry, for questions. Member Richardson, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Thank you so much, Mr.
I'm sorry,
Chair.
Jamie. I'm sorry, Jamie.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I had to get in the queue early this morning. And thank you so much, Director Nadal, and your team for your testimony, for your work, for the close work that you all did with Council President and I back to last summer, and the work that we all will continue to do together. Member Jones, Leader Jones, I also want to mention that Director Nadal and her team have been very responsive for an issue relative to our 54th Street corridor. So I just want to say thank you and kudos for that. And I know that Jared in Stravers Road Cafe appreciates that as well. I wanted to circle back and talk about just a couple things, but just underscore what Leader Jones talked about relative to the importance of sustaining Black businesses here in the city of Philadelphia. And you know that my office introduced a resolution wherein we will be hosting hearings regarding that issue, and really think about some of the impediments and some things that we can put in place from a policy perspective to make this environment better, recognizing sort of where we are in the city. But I wanted to talk about an issue that you know is of utmost interest to me relative to workforce development and providing opportunity not only for our young people, but for those who are looking to reskill and upskill in the city. And you know that the life sciences and biotechnology is a huge field now in the city of Philadelphia. We're one of the leaders in this area. So I wanted to start with talking about what you all are doing at Commerce to provide access and career paths into some of the growing industries like life sciences and biotechnology. And if you could also talk about if that portion of your work interfaces with the Workforce Professionals Alliance work, and if that's still ongoing.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman, for that question and for your support of Commerce and your leadership, both in the workforce area and then just supporting small businesses in general. As you know, we over the summer in our discussions, we have formalized a department or a unit, within the Commerce Department specifically dedicated to workforce. And I'm thrilled to say that among the hiring priorities that we have had this year has been that unit, and we've had success in building that unit up. And that has allowed us not only to do more within the department, but strengthen our relationships with our partners across the city who provide training, and really sort of extend our reach. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dawn Somerville again and to Gianna Grossman, who heads up our workforce development, and she can talk more specifically about the workforce professional alliance and some of the strong partnerships that we have developed around the city, specifically around the areas of life sciences. Dawn?
Good morning again. Thank you, Dawn Somerville, Department of Commerce. Good morning, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. Again, I want to echo Ann's remarks and thanking you and Council President Clark for your support, specifically around workforce. But to your point, life science and biotechnology is extremely important here in the city of Philadelphia, not just from a PhD standpoint, but from an entry for opportunity for those that are not seeking PhD or four-year college degrees. Philadelphia currently ranks number 5 as a life science city in the country, and we're number 2 overall for cell and gene therapy. With that being said, there's a lot of attention on Philadelphia. There's a lot of interest, both domestically and internationally, for investment in life science and biotechnology. As you know, Gianna Grossman, who I'll turn this over to in a few minutes, is our Senior Director for Workforce Solutions. And over the past year, under our Workforce Solution grants, we have received 26 proposals totaling $9 million for funding and awarded $1 million out to 4 organizations. One of those organizations is helping to create a cohort or life science lab work and a pathway for those opportunities for our Philadelphia residents to get into life science and biotechnology, as well as the increase that we've done within the Workforce Professional Alliance. We have grown that to over 26 plus development agencies, creating a stronger presence to respond to the needs for training and specifically around life science is one of those. I want to turn it over to Gianna at this time to talk a little bit further about that and where we're going for the next year.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to say thank you before Gianna begins. And if you all could just provide us, I know I ask this every year, but I know you added a few more organizations this year. If you could just provide us with the updated list for the Workforce Professionals Alliance, because I want to ensure that we're able to sort of deepen that reach and ensure that we could figure out how we incorporate the School District of Philadelphia's Career and Technical Education Office with the Workforce Professionals Alliance, as well as CCP. I just had the great fortune of about a month or two ago to be at CCP at their new Career and Tech Center in Councilmember Gaudier's district. And I mean, I am just blown away by the offerings at that location, and just want to ensure that we are working with CCP as well. And specifically, I met with Ayanna Washington, who I thought it was just wonderful, and am hoping that you all could include them with the Workforce Professionals Alliance as well.
We'll make sure we get that list over to you, and absolutely CCP has been a great partner in this work, and I'll turn it over to Gianna at this time.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, and thank you for all of your support for workforce development. I'm Gianna Grossman, Senior Director of Workforce in the Commerce Department. And actually, to hit on the 2 last comments that you made about both the CTEs and CCP. CCPs, we are funding a program for them to create a life science training program right now. The other program that we are funding for a life science training program is the University City Science Center. So we are really working to kind of deepen our relationships within the community to make sure that our residents in Philadelphia know about the opportunities that are going to come to them in this life science space, and really make sure that we have the pathway for our residents to take these well-paying jobs with companies. And we're working very closely with a lot of our life science companies. One of our Workforce Professional Alliance members, the West Philadelphia Skills Initiative, just piloted a program with iAdvance months at the Navy Yard, in which 10 people were employed through that program into aseptic technician roles immediately. So we're seeing some success and want to continue to build on that. In terms of the CTE schools, we're actually working with a partner in West Philly that is going to host CTE students next fall in biotechnology to really introduce them and build out a curriculum to ensure that that CTE program is very informed with what's going on in the industry and that those students have access to seeing the emerging technologies and opportunities. So thank you so much for your interest in this space, and we're hoping to build on these successes.
Yes, well, I heard the bell and I'm going to be respectful of the clock. I will circle back on the second round. Just want to say thank you for your great work, Gianna. It's always wonderful to work with you. And I'm happy to hear that we have end users sort of in the organizational cycle of workforce development that are willing to take young people, because that'll be the important part, is actually getting them into the career. And so I'll certainly circle back on the second round with additional questions around quality jobs program and nuisance businesses. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Richardson. Before I recognize Member Gutierrez, are you up in Bud Biotech up in my district as well?
Yes, we have been working. We have been working with the Bud site as well as they're looking for potential investors, and we have had several conversations with them about how to get training partners embedded at that site.
Because I know the 3rd district has it going on, but there might be a job or two up in the 4th.
Absolutely.
Member Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Majority Leader, Booker's is not closed. I'm there at least 3 times a week.
No, I didn't say they were closed.
Oh,
Didn't
okay.
they sell?
It changed ownership.
There
Yeah.
you go. I'm up on it.
They are still thriving.
Yeah.
We invite you to come by.
Anytime.
And Mr. Leader, I just as a point of information, the significance in Booker's being taken over is by a returning citizen by the name of Tracy Spinks.
Did not know that.
From New Jersey, and he has an outstanding story. I'm not sure why that part wasn't highlighted, but he has a remarkable comeback story of how he changed his life, and now with his wife, they somehow came up with $3.3 million to purchase Booker's in the great 3rd councilmatic district. So I thought that was awesome.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
that's
awesome
a good.
story. Yes.
That's a good addition.
Yes.
Also, can I please have my clock start now? Thank you.
Don't treat me like they treat me like the substitute teacher. Stop it. All right, go ahead.
Good morning, Commerce Director Nadel. I wanted to start by highlighting the great work that the Commerce Department does in partnership with my office in the 3rd District. Our district greatly benefits from your corridor-based work. We are lucky to have several thriving business corridors, including Baltimore Avenue, 52nd Street, Lancaster Avenue, Africatown, which we share with Councilmember Johnson, and even more. In particular, our businesses greatly benefit from the storefront improvement program, and our commercial corridors broadly have really benefited from taking care of business. So we are very excited to see those programs continue.
Yes.
I wanted to follow up on Councilmember Gilmore Richardson's line of questioning around life sciences workforce development. I was really excited to hear about the $450,000 of funding for the training programs at CCP and the Science Center. I appreciate that you all are making such a big investment in my district, and I just wanted you to expound on a few more of the details. So I wanted to know first the time frame over which that funding will be spent. How many individuals is the funding intended to cover? What kind of skills will they be learning? And do we know what or have ideas about what employers they will be connected to upon graduation?
Since that gets into the very nitty-gritty of the grants, I'm going to let Gianna and Dawn cover that so that you get the most accurate information. Gianna?
Yes. Thank you. So thank you so much for that question, Councilwoman Gautier. And we are very excited.
State your name again, please.
Yes, Gianna Grossman, Senior Director of Workforce. So our programs, one with the University Science Center is the BULB program, which really is an entry-level introduction into working in the labs. And so we have worked with them to kind of expand the amount of stipends they can provide and the timing of their program. So one of their programs has just started. I believe that their goal is about 15 students to 20 students in this funding cycle. That funding is all through calendar year 2023. And with CCP, it is a module that will be, there'll be several different modules that will be building up people's understanding and ability to get into the life science space. So really focusing on making sure that the math skills, the science, the lab skills are all there, which is really also a great opportunity for the students from the BULB program to actually continue their education in that space if they decide to go to the CCP Life Science Training Program. And that is about for 20 to 25 students as well. But this will be the first time that CCP is piloting this program. And they are working with 2 employers. They are working with WuXi at the moment, as well as Integral Molecular, as well as some other employers that have shown interest in really building out their pipelines of talent in this space. So we, for all of these programs, have been working very closely to get employer engagement to make sure that when students complete these training programs, that there are opportunities and employment directly available to them afterwards.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about this. One thing I am going to push on is that we're working to get to scale at the same time that we're starting. I've been to no less than ribbon cuttings for no less than 1 million square feet of real estate focused on the life sciences sector. And so if we're really going to be able to put our folks into these jobs, I think we have to develop training in a way that's massive. And I don't think that the city has to cover all of that. I do think that CCP has the formula, right? They've shown that with the Advanced Technology Center. They can do the same thing for the life sciences. But I think we can partner with a lot of the folks that are trying to build here and start companies here and grow here. And I think that we have to be pushing on these folks to have training as a part of their development plans, right? And to have community benefits agreements that work training programs into them if we're really going to be ready for what's going to happen here 5 to 10 years down the road. But thank you so much for this start. I'm so excited. Dawn, did you want to add something?
Yes, Councilwoman Gautier, thank you very much. And again, I just wanted to add a lot of, as you know, our team also works with a lot of the teams that are coming in to develop here for life sciences. And that is one thing that we are seeing in the conversations, that they are willing because of the need of the workforce and the talent pipeline, that they are willing to have those training opportunities and discussions. And we're making sure that we're doing that, as well as career connected learning and engaging them on what they're doing within the community. Because it's not just for our students. We're talking about people's aunties and uncles that can also either be reskilled or change of career and enter into this path as well.
Wonderful. If there is time, I have a few more questions. Okay. So Director Nadal, as you probably know, we've been working very closely with Commerce on the issues of unlicensed vendors in Clark Park. And Jenny Nam and Liam Fleming have been tremendous supports for us. I want to be very clear that I believe that the existence of unlicensed vendors is a symptom of creativity in an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that we should seek to channel that energy, not enforce it out out of existence. But we do need to have some somewhat of a strategy because there are folks who are following the rules, right? Namely, in Clark Park, Yahuru, which is a Black-owned market, and they've taken a long time to establish a presence, and they play by the rules, and they deserve for everybody else to play by the rules. And so we've been working with your office and others on a strategy, but we do need more support. And although our main focus has been on Clark Park, this is an issue that is happening in different parts of our district as well. And so my questions are, is this an area in which Commerce plans to provide support to my district and other council districts? And if so, how much do you currently have budgeted for staffing for this work and for financial supports to really help unlicensed vendors move into, do the right thing and become licensed with the city? If you don't have anything in the budget, how much would you need to provide support on this issue?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. And yes, the folks that you named, Jenny and Liam, have been doing yeoman's work working on this issue. And as you know, the vending sector is a very complicated one because it depends on what you are vending. And so different rules apply. There's not one blanket license. So it is a complicated process. And I know that we have been out there the past couple of weeks when the vendors are at Clark Park, trying to educate as much as possible as to how to go about becoming a legitimate city business and making sure that they have all of their proper permits and everything else in place. And we will continue to provide that support, and we do this across the city. Right now, we're focused on Clark Park because we know it's a growing issue, but it is something that we offer through all of our corridor managers and our district staff to do this. We would have to get back to you as to the additional resources that we would need to expand that, but I can have Dennis Murphy talk a little bit about what we have been doing out in Clark Park and going forward, what we are able to do, and then Karen Fegley, if we want to talk specifically about acquiring the business licenses, Karen can address some of that as well. So Dennis, do you want to get us started?
Thank you. And just before Dennis goes, I'll just say the question comes from a knowledge that I think we have to provide a lot of support to these vendors, right?
Yes.
These are folks that are just trying to make a living,
correct,
but they do need hand-holding with complicated city processes and licensing. And we're just trying to garner that support.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Can that support be similar to what's taking place with the Asian market in my district at FDR Park? And they surely didn't have a license for years, but some way, somehow, we were able to work with them and they got significant funding. And so, excuse me for chiming in, but I just wanted to be supportive of my colleague's question.
No, that's the model. FDR Park is the model, so thank you.
Thank you so much, members. We're going to recognize Councilman Phillips at this point.
I think Dennis didn't answer. He didn't answer us yet.
Oh, okay. Would you like to respond?
Sure. Thanks so much, Leader Jones. Thanks, Councilmember Gautier. I'm Dennis Murphy. I'm a Deputy Commerce Director. I manage the portion of Commerce that works on a lot of the corridor programs that you mentioned, Councilwoman Gautier, as well as the Office of Business Services team. So I'll speak a little bit about our Business Services team. So we have a team that's assigned by council district. We have point people for businesses throughout the city. Michelle Price leads that team. Council member Gautier, I know that you know that Jenny Nam from that team has been working closely with the vendors in Clark Park and businesses within your district. She's also been very involved down at FDR Park as well. That team is available to assist vendors because they are small businesses and talk with them about what's needed to become licensed to establish themselves. As you referenced, vending is very complicated, particularly based on the location. So that's something that I think that we're
managing in partnership with you and Parks and Rec in terms of the issues at Clark Park. But I just want to make it clear that our business services team views vendors as businesses. And as part of our mission of helping small businesses, that team is available to work with them. So thank you for your question. And that concludes my portion of it. I don't know, Karen, if you want to talk about vending rules or add anything to that.
Sure. Hello, Karen Fegley. I'm a Deputy Commerce Director. Just, reiterating all of this and appreciate you bringing this up, Councilwoman. We also agree that vending is an entrepreneurial activity that we should be supporting, right? It's part of what's going to grow our economy. It's like we call it a low barrier to entry type of business ownership. And we definitely want to help those folks. And I guess we do it sort of threefold, like Dennis is saying. Our business services team is doing the one-on-one stuff. Also, we have a focus in our business attraction retention on creative economy, which also, we're hitting a lot of sort of, artisans and craftspeople in that way, in the vending community. We're focusing on special events like Clark Park, like FDR. Also, we facilitated a way for more inclusion in Christmas Village, things like that. But I think that, so I know you want more of that one-on-one stuff, but I also think we have to look at the systems. And so this is one of our major projects this year. We are currently mapping all the types of vending licenses and permits. It is complicated, as the director said, because it depends whether you're, a food truck in Center City or a craft table at a special event. You need different kinds of licenses. So that gets complicated. It's hard to put it in like a simple one-pager. It's easier to do one-on-one. So that's what we're trying to do. But we also want to streamline some of those processes. And just for point of reference, I'm not making excuses, but we are in a peer cities project with other cities where we just brought up vending, and DC, Boston, Atlanta, New York, all are struggling with these same issues. So again, no excuses. This is one of our major projects to tackle this year. We want to both make the process simpler, and then we want to make it more clear and sort of easier for anyone to understand. So
thank you so much.
I know you've already committed your support for us to help us doing this, and I think
Yes.
I expect all council members will help us. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And to your point, and Member Johnson's point, LA 21 does that kind of technical assistance, bringing people out of their back of their trunk to a legitimacy that is important. So whether it's Clark Park or the Container Village or other areas in the city of Philadelphia, we need to lift up small businesses. And one of the things I'm finding is young people really don't want to work for other people. And this is a phenomenon that is growing. So we need to be able to accommodate them into legitimacy. So thank you for that, Member Goodyear. Chair recognizes Member Phillips.
Thank you, Chair and Majority Leader Jones. Thank you for recognizing me to speak at this moment. I am Anthony Phillips. I'm the City Council member for the Philadelphia's 9th District, which represents Northwest Philadelphia. And also we have Alany, East Oak Lane, Fern Rock, Logan, and lower northeast of Castor Gardens, Borough Home, Oxford Circle, Lawncrest, and Lawndale, and Summerdale. And so I'm very happy to be here with the Commerce Department, because you all have played a critical role in helping to develop our 9th District area. So, and the question, I just wanted to be on record, as you know, with our prior City Council member, we took a initiative, which Sherelle Parker helped, put together around the TCB program. I was wondering if you could tell the public a little bit more, quick overview about the TCB program to the listening public. And then also I have a question around, so Philadelphia TCB is currently a $7 million a year program. And with the FY2024 proposed budget, taking it, with the FY2024 proposed budget, taking it to $7.6 million next year to cover some inflationary costs. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that was clear. Okay, good. And so for what I understand, PHL TCB was originally envisioned to be a $10 million a year program. And I was wondering if you can share with our public what how it, how would this be, if you had it increased to $10 million, how would this support the TCP program even more?
Thank you, Councilmember Phillips, for that question. And I will say that our TCB program, I think, is one of the most impactful that we have because it touches so many neighborhoods. As you know, we're in 85 corridors now, which is remarkable. Those corridors employ over 200 people, many of whom are returning citizens. So it gives a solid work opportunity and allows folks to give back to their own communities. They're paid $15 an hour at a minimum. So they are real quality jobs and have such a daily impact on their neighborhoods and on the commercial corridors. Certainly before my time and yours. Yes, I know that the TCB program was talked about to be 10 million. And we did in this year's budget with the increase due to inflation and also having to pay higher wages, rightly so, to the cleaning ambassadors. The budget was increased or the proposed budget is for $7.6 million. I'm going to let Dennis Murphy, who oversees the cleaning program, talk a little bit about what additional funding might allow us to do in that program. Dennis?
Thanks so much, Ann, and thank you, Councilmember Phillips. And thanks again for your engagement with this program and the support of your staff. So as you know, we did a briefing for council staff about 3 weeks ago, which we really appreciated being able to share information about the program. So thank you for that. Yeah, so we, as Ann mentioned, we are looking forward to a year 4. We've been lucky over the 3 years of the program to have consistency in the program. So we launched in the middle of COVID, stood the program up. Our partners really responded. We were able to bring new groups into this activity, corridor cleaning in the neighborhood. So many new groups. And we have a number of examples of groups that are new to the program that are doing a tremendous job. So that's a great kind of accomplishment with TCB. So we've had 3 consistent years of the program. We are grateful to have funding proposed this year that would allow us to continue with those groups and accommodate their costs. If we had additional funding, I think we would look first to the needs of the existing groups that are cleaning kind of the priority commercial corridors that had been developed early on. So some of those needs would include increased cleaning frequency and crews, like boosting the crew size in some of the areas that have the most significant litter problems. So some of our really busy commercial corridors. So additional funding would allow us to do that. It would allow our groups to do more and hopefully hire additional staff. We've been working a lot with our groups to think about career pathways for the cleaning ambassadors. So for some of the groups that have large cleaning crews, that means, if they've got a 7 or 8 person crew, it means thinking about those cleaning ambassadors as potentially being supervisors or crew chiefs. So that's another way, if we had increased funding, I think we'd be able to expand those promotional opportunities within the program. So those are 2 additional uses of those, if we had the funding, that $10 million, how we might deploy it. So I think we'd look to strengthen what we have first. And then there might be an opportunity for some corridors that are currently not served. So places within the city where businesses are concentrated in neighborhoods where cleaning isn't going on, where we might be able to bring this activity. So I hope that answers your question about how we would use additional funds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also just wanted to say that we're trying to find ways to, get the program even further connected, not just with our commercial corridors, but also in our residential neighborhoods as well. And, if it's not through TCB, which is, by the way, for the viewing public, TCB stands for Taking Care of Business Program. We're also trying to look to see what we can do with the sanitation department through some more union-based work around that as well. We just want to be as responsive to cleaning needs in the city of Philadelphia as possible, and that's just incredibly important to all of us on City Council. I also my second question that I have revolves around the nuisance business business bill that we just I just introduced in City Council. I just wanted if you can give talk, if someone can speak on the enforcement process behind that, and also the thought process behind that with the Commerce Department, so people can give that. Myself, I introduced it, and I co-introduced. It was co-introduced with me, with Councilwoman Captain Gilmore Richardson, as well as Councilwoman Bass, and Councilwoman Lozada. So we're really looking forward to seeing the enforcement of this bill, because we have too many 24-hour shops that are causing issues in our communities.
Thank you, Councilman Phillips, for that question. And we could not agree with you more that the impact of nuisance businesses really is felt throughout every commercial corridor in which they sit, right? It's not just the single business. It spreads throughout that commercial corridor. The trick is balancing regulations and laws that are meant to address nuisance businesses, that they not impact quality businesses that we want to have open on the corridors. And that is a definite balancing act. And I know you guys have been addressing, or council has been addressing that. And it's a very fine line. While Commerce does not get involved in this particular piece of it, compliance and enforcement are the most immediate ways to address these businesses. And I know L&I is, and health, L&I in particular, is out there as much as possible. I know we all know that they are very short-staffed, but they know that this is a priority, and they understand the impact it has on all of us. And on all of our small businesses. Karen Fegley has been working a lot on this issue as well, in terms of sort of policies and the way to sort of address the nuisance businesses in general. So Karen, do you want to add anything to what I just said?
I don't think I have too much to add, just that we are working on this ongoing. We really appreciate, Councilman Phillips, your partnership. Actually, so many council members, signed on to those amendments, which are going to help make enforcement, stronger. It requires, not only those changes, but it also requires ongoing coordination, which it seems like the enforcement agencies have been doing, are going to continue to do. And as Ann said, Commerce is committed to, we are not an enforcement agency, but we recognize that our good businesses can't thrive if there are bad players kind of, messing it up. And so we want, so we're going to stay on this issue, and we'll continue to sort of be a facilitator and an advocate with our other, with our other city departments to make sure this keeps moving forward. And always want to be at the table, with you, council member, to help move this along.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Karen, and thank you, Majority Leader, for your time.
Thank you, Member Phillips, and you're right on point. When a business sells loosies, when a business sells liquor by the drink, when a business has gambling machines to the point where people are being victimized and robbed, there is a geography around those nuisance businesses that often bad things happen. And we really have to pay attention. If you're talking about Point Breeze, or Jamie and I share a Market Street area where there are stores like that every weekend something happens, and it's not by coincidence. So we have to pay attention to that and the geography of where those bad things happen. Chair recognizes Member Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Ann. How are you today?
Good morning, Councilman. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. So first, I want to thank you and your hard team for all your hard work as relates to moving our economy forward here in the city of Philadelphia. A couple brief questions. And I also want to thank your team for participating in the How to Do Business with City Agencies event that hosted in Philadelphia Navy Yard, an opportunity to get Black and brown businesses at the table when it comes to doing business with the city. So I want to thank you and your team for being supportive of those efforts. My question is around the issue of income inequality. Recently, the Philadelphia Economy League released a report that since 2010 until now, 2023, income for African American households pretty much has remained stagnant. Since 2010 to 2023, income amongst African American households increased by $2,000 and $7,000, $10,000, and $15,000 for Latinos, Asian Americans, and Caucasians, respectfully, which just shows that we carry the title as the #1 big city when it comes to poverty, but we have to do a deeper dive when it comes to raising the income of, particularly in this case, African Americans, in a city that's predominantly majority African Americans. And so, one, I want to see, have your team saw that report? 2, what has the response been to that report? And 3, an initiative that you're working on that I'm very, very interested in is the Diverse Contractors Initiative. How will that initiative operate? How will you go about recruiting and getting businesses involved? And also, how would it work in terms of, one of the main reasons individuals may call my office is because some are back on rent, some may be back on their mortgages, some may need seed money because traditional banking doesn't work for them, and most importantly, making payroll, particularly for contractors that we work with. And so I'm working with PIDC around some concepts, but wanted to get an idea from you and your team, how does your Diverse Contractors Initiative will work, and do you have any plans regarding looking at income inequality?
Thank you for that question, Councilman Johnson. And yes, we are very familiar with that report. And not to provide a flip answer, but I would say that opportunity is the answer to all of this, right? And it's different opportunities, be it workforce training, be it opportunities to do business with the city of Philadelphia, be it opportunities to establish businesses and grow family wealth. It all comes down to opportunity. And so all my friends just popped up on the screen. So so because this transcends so much of what the Commerce Department does, we have a couple different representatives here, and I'll let them sort of tag team in terms of answering in terms of specific questions. We have Dawn Somerville, Lynn Newsom, who you know is the Office of Economic Opportunity, and then Gianna Grossman, that can also talk about our workforce development. So Lynn, you haven't spoken yet today, so do you want to start?
Good morning.
Thank you. Lynn.
Good morning, Councilman Johnson. Thank you
for helping my team regarding doing business with the city of Philadelphia.
Yes, well, I look forward to meeting you in person and participating in that event. Thank you very much for the invite. Thank you, Director Nadoff, for the question. As far as diversity, opportunities for diversity, ever since coming, today is my 1-year anniversary coming to OEO. So I'm happy both to survive, for 1 year and to also get an opportunity to talk about what we're doing at OEO to help our diverse businesses. And the first thing that I focused on upon coming over here is capacity building. And you can look at capacity building for diverse businesses 2 ways. The first and the most obvious way is to get more diverse businesses in OEO registry, so giving them more opportunity to get selected for contracting. And the second one is the most important one, is to build their capacity, not only to by scope, but also to get larger contracts. So that'll help. And our initiative is to build generational wealth for these contractors, get them out of the subcontracting arena into the prime contracting arena, so that they can actually have an opportunity to make more money and to help their communities. So that's our number 1 priority, is that capacity building component for our diverse businesses. And we're looking at it several approaches. First is the outreach. There are some businesses out there that can do bigger contracts and have the capacity. We just don't know who they are. So we've been working with our team, our diverse Chamber of Commerce, to look at their membership and see who's out there. Give them the opportunity, get before them to tell them the benefits of working for the city. Sometimes we have a bad reputation because they say, oh, what's the use of getting certified in your registry? We don't get work. We need to be able to do a better marketing for, what we have to offer as a city. So that's the one thing, getting before, their membership, explaining the benefits, and and then the second one is getting them prepared. How do you prepare for, the bigger contracts? And we do that through a series of workshops that we started in January. Actually, we started it during midweek, and we call it the OEO Business Development Series, where we're actually giving them some more in-depth information about how to run their business. They know their skill, they know their craft, they know their trade, but the business end is kind of elusive to them. And that could be, the difference between failing and succeeding as a contractor. Things like the psychology of business. Are they prepared? How to actually run a business, and all the little nuances that go into that, how to finance a business if the bank says no. So we're, preparing them that way, whether they need a lawyer or an attorney, the benefits of joint venture. So we're trying to give them the education that they may need or may have not had in the past, and to help them grow. So there are some of the initiatives that we're working on at OEO. And I look forward to getting in front of every council member and laying out our plan in depth in the future. Thank you.
And I'm going to be, I know I have a short amount of time. How do we deal with measuring enforcement? Like, I know for a fact, if you are like most zoning ordinances go through, right, development wise, require certain goals that developers have to accomplish, right? How are we measuring to make sure that all of these development projects that are going through, and I know there's monthly meetings, because I know we're doing it with Hillco, we've done it in the past with Live Casino. How are we measuring and making sure that from an enforcement standpoint, particularly developers on the contracting side are meeting the city's stated required goals, requirements?
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, your question is regarding the private projects?
Yes.
Okay, so private projects is defined as projects that have no city funding and do not need an ordinance from city council. So therefore, under chapter 1716 of this Philadelphia Code, they do not need an EOP.
Yeah,
So
I'm
economic
sorry.
opportunity.
I might have said that part. I probably wasn't clear.
Okay.
The certain zoning ordinances that do go through require an EOP.
Okay.
How are we managing and making sure that those ordinances that go through are meeting their required goals?
Well, we have staff that monitor every project that has an EOP and making sure that they attain their goal. And I think the bigger thing with and I enforced this when I came over here with my staff, that we are the subject matter experts. We need to be looking at these projects and pointing out opportunity and helping, these entities get to their goals. So we need to do a better job as a unit to both identify the opportunity and then make sure that, they are actually meeting their goals. And the best way to enforce it is to be proactive and make sure that they have realistic goals that they can meet, and there are actually opportunities. So, we are actually looking at that, retraining staff on how to look at projects and how to identify enforceable opportunities.
Okay, thank
you. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Councilmember John.
I thought Dawn was getting ready to respond. Everybody popped up on the screen when I asked my questions. So
right.
Lynn was going to say a few responses. Is that it? Because I do have a question for Dawn. Is that okay?
Yes. Okay. Please proceed, and then we'll move forward to questions from Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah. And so, and I see that the workforce opportunities that you're providing, particularly around getting people to work, I think is great. I'll wrap up on this one. Dawn, and I guess Ann, since I have you on the phone now, are we able to, and I asked this question at a meeting with Dawn, so on certain development projects that come through the city of Philadelphia, and let's say they go on for a KOZ, Keystone Opportunity Zone, right? And part of the requirement is partnering with the school district in the city of Philadelphia. But however, and that partnership is for a pipeline for our young people. So my former colleague talked about the life sciences, right? But the current policy says that if you're a non-traditional school, charter school, right, then you are exempted, can't participate, excluded from actually being a part of that process, which if you look at the data around the issue of gun violence, we have more shootings and more homicides and killings of young people in the charter school system than we do the actual public school system. And when I go talk to my constituents, they're not, and I look a mother in the eye who lost a loved one to gun violence, she's not saying, Councilman, my kid went to a public school or a charter school. It's what can you do to make our neighborhood safe? What opportunities can be provided? And so that's a policy that I ran up against where I think it's under the Hillco Bellwether District project. Like they're actually doing a partnership pipeline with the public school system, which is the school district, but the local schools in the area of Grace Ferry just happens to be charter schools. And those kids can't actually participate through this policy. Is there any way that can be changed?
I'll speak briefly on this. Councilmember Johnson and Gianna, feel free to chime in as well. This has been a conversation that we have raised with our colleagues at the school district as well. We've had quite a few developments that those developers or companies had already established relationships with either charter schools or second chance schools that were not part of the school district, and they continue that support as well as adding on to Philadelphia School District. I feel like if it's a student in Philadelphia, they should have those opportunities and pathways and opportunities to experience the career-connected learning. So that is something, again, that we will continue to press forward on. I'm sorry I don't have an answer today for you, but I can tell you that it's been top of mind for myself as well as Gianna. And Gianna, did you have any additional remarks there?
Yes, sure. Good morning, Councilmember Johnson. Gianna Grossman, Senior Director of Workforce. With some of these partnerships, while the exact agreements prioritize the district students, we try to ensure that there are also options, especially during like the summer internship opportunities through Work Ready, to involve those charter school students. But we're happy to have a larger conversation about how we kind of prioritize or balance the needs of both public and charter school students.
Yeah, I think we can go on the record and say, Dawn and Gianna, and can we just set up an official meeting with your team so we
Pardon me, Councilmember Johnson. May I request that everyone please go on mute? Okay, thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Please proceed.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. So
yes, we will follow up and set up a meeting to talk about this in further detail with you. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, and I have a good
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Johnson. For the record, this is Councilmember Gilmore Richardson taking over as chair for this committee. I will now recognize Councilmember Thomas for questions.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, and thank you to you and your
Good morning,
entire
Councilman.
Thank you to you and your entire team for all the work that you do. It's very much appreciated. I just have a couple questions. I agree with Councilmember Johnson's line of questions around looking at Black wages and Black businesses, and I guess I'm wondering how intentional has the Commerce Department been with your contractual opportunities? I know you guys have had a number of professional services and opportunities. How is the Commerce Department doing itself as it relates to local businesses, Black-owned businesses? I know I passed the Keep It Local legislation to assure that a certain percentages of city contracts goes to Philadelphia-based businesses. We also encourage minority, women-based businesses to be supported as well, too. So if you don't have the numbers right now, if you can get us something right, that'll be appreciated. But I think that's an important point based on some of the things that Councilmember Johnson talked about and some of the things that we're looking to do to address poverty and the economic disadvantages that a lot of communities of color are facing.
Thank you, Councilman, for that question. We could not agree with you more. We can certainly get you some specific data. I don't have it top of hand right now, but I will say that we absolutely prioritize keeping it local and making sure that every project and every contract that we let, be it for a program, be it for a service that we are using within the Commerce Department, or whether it's funding an organization to provide training, or even the TCB program, we are always looking at both our program design and when we are awarding dollars with a racial equity lens. So that is an absolute priority of this department, and keeping it local. So I can have Heloise Jettison, who's Chief of Staff and who has overseen all of our racial equity efforts, address that in part, and then Yvonne Boy as well, our Deputy Commerce Director.
No. That's not that I don't love hearing from them, but that's not
Okay.
necessary. If you could just give us numbers,
Sure.
that would be better. If we can just
Yes,
get
we're
numbers,
happy to do that.
that'll
Yes,
help
we will
us.
do
And
that.
we want to
Yep.
continue to work with you on those goals and continue to push.
No, and that is a shared priority.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving in a different direction, I'm wondering your thought process on government efficiency. One of the things that I've been pushing in this budget is the idea of the city becoming a little more efficient, a little more user friendly. I'm wondering, have you and your department ever looked at how much the city costs or how much the city loses because of government efficiencies? I'll give you this government not being efficient. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I think will help business, and I know your department helps with this somewhat, is if people had a one-stop shop to be able to go to, not just for starting businesses. That's one part. Getting licenses is another part. But then you also have when you owe the city money and trying to identify all of fines, fees, taxes, or other things that might be owed. I'm wondering, number one, have we looked at the impact that this had on the economy, on these Black businesses, brown businesses, women and minority-owned businesses? Have we looked at those numbers at all? And do you and your team have any suggestions on how we can, do a little bit better as far as making the city government user-friendly?
The ease of doing business is something that we try to address every day. Ease of doing business with the city, excuse me. We try to address every day. I do not believe that we have any sort of economic impact or evaluation of what the costs of not being efficient are. I will say that we have been, in the past year, we have really stood up what I would call our advocacy unit, and strategic initiatives. And one of the main priorities of that unit is looking at processes and the way that the city government interacts with businesses to make it as simple and streamlined as possible. We've done this with when the streeteries rolled out. We've done this with childcare businesses who are trying to open and making it easier for them to open. We have done it, as you know, Councilman, we worked with you in your office on the short-term rentals and how Airbnb businesses worked and interacted with the city. So that is something that we are constantly addressing. Karen alluded earlier to how we deal with the vending, and trying to simplify that. We know that it is very difficult sometimes to do business with the city. The regulations and rules that are in place are all very well intended, but sometimes have consequences that other departments may not have intended to have happen, and making it more difficult for a business to interact with the city. So we have been really building up that capacity and sort of chipping away, right? It's I don't think we'll ever get there and be completely done, but we are trying to pick some of the bigger issues that we have come across and try to address those sort of as quickly as we can. In terms of the one-stop shop that you raised, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Have we seen improvement with the website? Remember we talked about putting out a new RFP.
Yes. Yep.
To make this where we have it at.
So we did this year unveil the Permit Wizard, which is an online tool where businesses are putting in their own information, and it walks them through step by step what they're going to need throughout the whole process. It's not just one at a time. They can, if you go in and you say you want to be a restaurant, it tells you all of the different licenses that you are going to require, the cost of those licenses, and how to apply for those licenses. So that has been something that we will continue to fine tune, but that is out there now. So that at least is accessible to any business who wants to even figure out what it might take to start a business in the city. And we continue to promote that website, and obviously that is an ongoing project, but that's another one that we will never be done with. So we fully understand the challenges of doing business with the city, and are committed to try to simplify those processes as much as possible. Karen, I don't know if you want to add any more specifics.
No, I think you covered it all. I wanted to make sure we mentioned Permit Navigator, and thank you, Councilman
No, I
Thomas,
called it the Permit Wizard. I apologize. It's the Permit Navigator. My mistake. Yes.
Because that word is more easily translatable on our website. So we're always trying to be accessible. But yeah, Councilman Thomas, you were really, supportive of that. And, we had lots, meetings on that from the beginning, and we'll look for your continued support. Yeah, no, it's just that we're going to continue to do this. We understand very deeply that when it's hard to do business in the city, we will hear from the bigger businesses, right? They will complain. We will all hear from them. But the ones who it hits the hardest are the small businesses and entrepreneurs who, don't have as deep pockets and staff to handle all that. So we want to make it as easy as possible. And yeah, appreciate all your support on that.
Thank you. Let me just close out by just saying, because I think there's only second rounds coming up next, and I won't come up for a second round. If I could just close out by just thanking you for the nightlife economy position and the work that was done there to create that position. We know we still have a lot more work to do. If you want to add a few remarks around that, that would be appreciated. And then, of course, CDFIs. I'm looking at addressing this issue of economic growth, especially in Black and brown businesses. And I'm wondering if you could talk about if you think it would be beneficial for us to partner with CDFIs to target certain areas that are really struggling as it relates to poverty, to try to help stimulate those areas. So if you could just briefly touch on those two things. I see you got other folks on the call, so I don't want to take up too much time. But yeah, thank you, Raheem. Thank you, Dawn, for the work that you're doing as well too. I appreciate you both, and I appreciate everybody at the Commerce team. I love working with you guys, and I want to continue to push the envelope so we can be better as a city.
And there are days where we do need pushing, Councilman. So please continue that. And we thank you again, as we said earlier, for your vision and your support of the nighttime economy position. It really was a sector that had been unaddressed, I think, prior to Raheem's, not intentionally, but it just is what it is, prior to Raheem's arrival. So we're grateful for that. And then since we talked earlier about the nighttime economy, maybe we'll let Yvonne talk a little bit about the CDFIs and the work that we are doing with them now, and how that is designed to focus on Black and brown businesses. Yvonne, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, good morning. Yvonne Boyd, Deputy Commerce Director, leading the Office of Neighborhood Economic Development. Thank you for your question. We work very closely with the CDFIs, and during the pandemic, we were able to deploy funding through them. We've always worked with them, but the pandemic gave us an opportunity that hadn't been. We realized that they were more in tune with working with the small businesses. And so we were able to deploy the funding through them and now meet with them regularly and support each other. They also were given some funding through the state, and they've been able to work with the small businesses and deploy millions of dollars to these small businesses. We're trying to support them better. What they need more than anything else is technical assistance. Throwing money at the problem does not always fix the problem. The solution sometimes is more in hand-holding and letting the businesses understand what it is that they don't know and what it is that they need to get to the next level. And the CDFIs are particularly equipped to do that better than the bigger banks. But there is a deficiency in the funding for technical assistance that is needed. So we work very closely with them. We fund some of them, and we fund them with technical assistance dollars so that we can actually get them to do what it is that is needed. We don't necessarily have CDFIs that are targeted in specific areas, right? They are spread over the city, but since COVID, they've actually been doing more and more with Black and brown businesses. So yes, we are working with them. We haven't necessarily targeted particular areas, but we've targeted the communities that we've seen that need them the most. I hope that answers part of your question.
It does. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilmember Thomas. And thank you so much to the Commerce Department. I see that I am next in the queue for second round questions. And I just wanted to get one thing on the record, or two things on the record. One regarding nuisance businesses and what your department's role is in addressing nuisance businesses. And I just want to say for the record that I appreciate you all going out with us to the nuisance business enforcement tours and really seeking to help small businesses come into compliance, but also being a help to the businesses that are operating legally on those corridors. And so I just wanted to talk about how you all sort of interface on the nuisance business issue, if you sit on the nuisance business task force, and how you all are working with the businesses that have been cited to help them come into compliance, and if you all plan to increase staffing to sort of address that issue, and if you work with LNI and PPD on that work as well.
Thank you for that question, Councilwoman, and for your leadership on addressing this issue, because as we said earlier, it is impacting every commercial corridor and everyone who frequents those commercial corridors. As you know, we are not this is not to pass the buck, but we are not the compliance agency. We do work hand in hand with LNI and with the police when we are alerted to a nuisance business on a commercial corridor to make sure that that business is being addressed. We will also work with that business if by chance they are just misunderstanding of the regulations, need assistance in applying for their proper permits and licenses, etc. Obviously, we would provide the same support that we would provide to any business. So that is a priority and one that we do without question. We cover all of this both through the commercial corridors that we fund, as well as with our different business service managers that cover each of the councilmatic districts. At this time, we don't have specific data or funding requests to boost that particular part of the department. I know that Karen Fegley's shop has been doing, again, a lot internally and working with council staff and council members on passing regulations that will target those nuisance businesses without negatively impacting legitimate businesses who may happen to be selling, a grocery store who's legitimate and not selling anything illegal, that they are not impacted by some well-intended legislation that is, maybe too broad. So we're continually working on that, and again, working with LNI and the police to make sure that they are targeting those businesses that are a nuisance, and then making sure that they're not opening again. 2 days later, as we have often heard happens.
Right. That's the challenge. And really, some of them are blatantly out of compliance, and some of them do need to just understand sort of the city licensing and business process. And so I know it's a fine line to toe based on the products that are being sold, but we've also heard from other businesses on these corridors who legitimately can sell, for instance, cigarettes, that their business is being negatively impacted because the store that's illegally sort of operating is selling cigarettes as well, but with medallions from other places. And so I just want to make sure that there's an interface from a commerce perspective to ensure that from the city side and point of view, in case it goes far down the road legally, that we can say, from a commerce perspective, we did, try to help them come into compliance with the city process. I just want to get that on the record, because many of these businesses are starting to get to the court phase of the process. And I just want to make sure that from, protecting the city around enforcing the nuisance business legislation, that we are and do have a process in place to say, this is how you come into compliance, so that we can look back and say, you did not follow these steps, and now we're here at this point in the process.
Yes, and we do. And from that perspective, we would work with them to get them into compliance if that is their only challenge.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. I will submit the balance of my questions for written response. I will now recognize Councilmember Driscoll. Councilmember Driscoll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Nato, thank you. You and your department, you've worked very closely with me on a number of projects. In particular, Karen Fagley and Arturo Hall have been outstanding, and the rest of your staff. I appreciate a lot of what you said today. I know you're doing everything you can to make doing business in Philadelphia easier. I want to just concentrate a little bit on the manufacturing aspect. And if you could just highlight, you may have done this a little earlier, but I'm really keenly interested in my district, because it's, I think, particularly relevant to the 6th Council Matic, of trying to retain and attract manufacturing. And I'll just comment that in my days in the House of Representatives, we put a lot of money through the school district and into the private schools to have a dual curriculum that would have them have skills to go into the trades and into manufacturing. So I'll let you comment.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Driscoll, for that question. And you are absolutely correct that the manufacturing sector and advanced manufacturing is a vital sector for the city of Philadelphia. And we treat it like, and we actually have somebody dedicated specifically to manufacturing, both retention and attraction. It is also why we launched this year a pilot, and I'll let Dawn Somerville, Deputy for Business Retention and Attraction, provide more detail on this, but we have piloted this year the PHL made grants that are specifically for manufacturing businesses that are in the city of Philadelphia, and that we are also trying to attract. So Dawn, do you want to give a little detail on that program and just our business retention and attraction initiatives in general?
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning, Councilmember Driscoll, Dawn Somerville, Deputy Commerce Director. As Director Nadal stated, we are continuously working with our manufacturing team or unit that's led by Arturo Hall. Within that community, we're seeing a shift in manufacturing, whether or not it's just your traditional manufacturing that we've known over the years, but it's also advanced and turned heavier within the life science area. So we're seeing more of the biotech companies coming out and doing manufacturing within that space. And it's something that we are looking to support for several reasons. One, it's a low entry for training and certification to get those opportunities. But most recently, under Arturo's leadership, we've launched our PHL grants, which is a matching grant of up to $20,000 per company to support capital for machinery or equipment for those businesses that are located in our industrial zone properties. The application stayed open. Just to give you just a little background, it recently closed on the 15th. We got 20 plus applications that will be combing through to make those awards. And again, I think highlighting manufacturing, I know that we are also continuing to relaunch our manufacturing month, which Arturo will be doing that as well, and a couple of other series that help support not only our men in manufacturing, but also our women. So we're planning for a couple of seminars and sessions to introduce that into the market as well.
That's helpful, Dawn. Thank you for that. Because, I think one of the mistakes we made over the years was trying to push all our kids to go to college, and the very, very bright kids can go in another direction, and we want to destigmatize that in the high schools, and make sure that when they come out, that they don't have to leave Philadelphia, that they can stay right here at home and buy their first home here in Philadelphia. So what you are doing, I think, is not only critical to the manufacturers, but I think building neighborhoods in all parts of Philadelphia. So thank you to your team, Director Nadel, and you certainly have my support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Driscoll, if I can just add, we want to thank you as well for your support on keeping industrial sites, the integrity of the industrial sites intact, and keeping our sites industrial. That's the only way we continue to have the support of growing manufacturers to capacity through that effort.
And one thing I did want to add, thank you for that, by the way. Being that 2026, Philadelphia is going to be on the world stage as our 250th anniversary of our democracy. And we're going to have the Major League All-Star Game. We're going to have FIFA, blah, blah, blah. I think we have to pay particular attention to our hospitality industry that suffered so horribly during the pandemic. And as they come out of it, I know they're going to be looking to council and to commerce to bolster that industry so that we're ready when we're on that world stage in a few years. So I'll just leave that as a comment.
Thank you. And we're also supporting that effort as well. I can tell you our international team is working closely with our partners as we head into 2026 to help set the stage for everything that you as the host city. So we are collaborating across all of those partners, and we thank you for that remark.
And you'll hear more from the airport about their plans when they testify next about what all their preparations for 2026.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Driscoll. We will now proceed with Councilmember Harity. The chair recognizes Councilmember Harity.
Hello, Councilwoman. Can you hear me? Councilwoman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, colleague. Please proceed.
Okay. All right. Listen, I'm happy to be here today. I just have a couple of quick questions. Hey, I'm sure you're aware of all the retail theft that's going on, and we're losing stores all over the place. I lost to Walgreens in my neighborhood of Kensington and Allegheny. And the other day I was out in Southwest and noticed that they closed a Rite Aid down out there. I know the Target's closing in Center City due to the retail theft problem. Is there any plan that you know of to try to combat some of this? And the other question I have is about programming. Is there any programs to teach people how to actually open a business? Because like in my neighborhood, I have a lot of people that are running businesses out of their homes and are very good at their trades, but they may not be as good at the business end of it. And I think it would be wise if we had classes to teach these people how to actually open a business, how to get insurance, how to get licenses, how to do permits and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, for those questions. Let me start with the retail one first, and then I'll ask some of my colleagues to join to talk more specifically about some of the programs that we offer to companies who are just getting started. As it relates to the retail theft, yes, you are correct that it is an ongoing problem, both petty theft and organized, much more significant organized theft. And we have been working closely with the police, but also we have been working with our corridor managers to make sure that businesses are taking full advantage of all of the programs that are offered by the city, be it security camera programs, other safety measures that we will support. And we are providing them with tip sheets and coordinating with the with the police districts to make sure coverage of our commercial corridors is as efficient as possible. To your question about support for new businesses that are coming up, we do provide a number of resources for companies, and I'm going to ask Yvonne Boyd to talk about some of that. to describe some of the programs that we support, Biz Coach and others, for, again, new businesses, so that making sure that they get set up properly from the get, so that ensures their success as soon and as great as possible. So, Yvonne?
Thank you, Anne Yvonne Boyd, Deputy Commerce Director, and thank you for the question as well. Yes, we do have a number of programs where we fund third-party agencies, nonprofit agencies mostly. We do have some for-profit as well that assist businesses that want to start businesses, or entrepreneurs. Actually, they may not even be business, like you mentioned, right? They're doing their trade in their homes, and they are able to access these programs, and where these programs will teach them exactly what you mentioned, right? How to even get their licenses, how to incorporate, and the best way forward, help them with business plans, and provide them access to funding, like who's out there who's able to fund them. So we do fund several nonprofits to do this, and I can share those with you. But in addition to that, we also just last year piloted a program we called Build from Within, and that is more holistic, where within one organization that we fund, they have cohorts in different areas. They have cohorts where they go with they work with nonprofit agencies in those areas to recruit entrepreneurs, exactly as you mentioned. They'll go through a training program, go through everything that I mentioned earlier, and then that organization itself, which is a CDFI, is able to provide them with seed funding for them to start their businesses. They provide technical assistance throughout this time, and just to make sure that they are able to use the resources adequately to grow their business. What is innovative about this is that they are able also to help them to actually go into a storefront. They'll help them with a lease, help them to find a place, and stay with them as they grow. This is a model that we're trying to emulate from a national organization. And what we've realized is that they are able to go with them throughout. And sometimes they've been doing this for over 26 years and able to even help those businesses get their children into businesses as well. So we've started that program, and we're hoping that it will gain traction and will change the landscape of getting entrepreneurs out of their homes into their businesses. Dennis, if you want to add anything. Thank you for the question, and I hope that helps you answer your question.
It actually does. I would like some information on that program and the other programs, if you could send them to me. Would be greatly appreciated. I was actually looking at doing some stuff for grant funding to help get people into buildings, trying to figure it out. So into storefronts, because my commercial corridor has been decimated by the retail theft and the opioid epidemic. So I appreciate it. And if you could send me that stuff, that would be great.
We will follow up in writing, Councilman, with the specific details on those programs.
Thank you so much. You guys are great.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilmember Harity. Are there any additional questions for the Commerce Department? Are there any additional questions for the Commerce Department? Okay, seeing none, Director Nadal and team, we thank you for the opportunity to have the discussions this morning. We look forward to our continued work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to all members.
Awesome. Okay, we will now recognize the airport for testimony. Hey, Mr. Saeed.
Good morning.
Good morning. Are you here and are you prepared to begin your testimony?
Yes, I am.
Okay, excellent. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Good morning, Madam Chair and members of Council. I am Atif Saeed, Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Department of Aviation. The Department of Aviation is responsible for operating the Philadelphia International and the Northeast Philadelphia Airport. The department operates as a self-sustaining entity without the use of local tax dollars, and it generated over $16.8 billion in economic activity pre-pandemic. Joining me today are Tracy Borda, Chief Financial Officer, Talisha Walls, Chief Administrative Officer, Jim Terrell, Chief Revenue Officer, and several other staff members from the Department of Aviation. We're all pleased to be here today to provide testimony on the department's fiscal year 2024 operating budget. Since I've only been in the role for a little over 4 months, many of the accomplishments and initiatives I'll be outlining today were made possible by my predecessor, Shelley Cameron, our Chief Operating Officer, Keith Bruni, who also served as the interim CEO before my arrival, and the exceptional team of professionals assembled at the airport whose dedication to our airports has been pivotal to the department's success. As the new CEO, I am the beneficiary of a strong foundation that has been constructed brick by brick by the airport team. Moving forward, I plan to build upon this strong foundation and incorporate my vision for our airports as the city and the region prepare for the World Cup, many other events, including an outstanding semi-quincentennial celebration in 2026 and beyond. Last year, my predecessor came before you and noted that travel had modestly rebounded at Philadelphia International Airport. During fiscal year 2022, we reached 73% of 2019 passenger numbers. I'm pleased to inform you that in fiscal year 2023, travel continues to slowly rebound to pre-pandemic numbers, and we are estimating to finish this year at almost 82% of 2019 passenger numbers. Based on current forecasts provided by industry experts, our team anticipates reaching full recovery to 2019 passenger levels by 2026, when the eyes of the world will be on our city. My mission and vision for the airport is focused on customer service and overall experience, of which Philadelphia International Airport has made positive strides this past fiscal year. The airport's Guest Experience Council, established in 2019, has worked to modernize gate waiting areas with new furnishings and electrification for passenger charging access. Our People First culture offers 24/7 informational services through our volunteer program, virtual information portals, language support, and customs and border protection, an improved website, and enhanced security checkpoints. Our team has also worked tirelessly to ensure our airports are industry leaders in sustainability. In accordance with city officials, our operations and development teams have established ambitious goals, such as carbon neutrality by 2050, zero waste by 2035, and 100% use of renewable energy by 2030. Our capital development team is focused on supplying infrastructure to support fleet electrification, in addition to current and future development projects meeting LEED and Envision requirements. So far, 14 airfield projects, including runways and taxiways, are in the process of seeking Envision verification, and one major renovation at PNE Airport is seeking LEED Gold. I'm happy to add that collaboration is happening in all corners of our campus. Our DEI program is building awareness, identifying solutions, and fostering a dynamic workplace to ensure equitable opportunities and outcomes. The team was recognized nationally and has received numerous diversity awards. The Department of Aviation is fortunate to also have its own Racial Equity Advisory Council, comprised of a diverse group of union and non-union airport employees. This council helps to cultivate awareness, camaraderie, and host sensitivity training for all employees. Operational challenges do remain, however. Cleanliness of our terminals, navigating our facilities, and hiring staff are all focus areas for us. Our budget is reflective of our efforts and goal of being seen as one of the most accommodating and user-friendly airports for travelers. Our team also continues to focus on $1.4 billion cargo expansion project, which is expected to create approximately 6,000 family-sustaining jobs over the next 5 to 8 years. Identifying federal and state funding to assist with this work is going to be crucial as we move forward. As we continue to build and recover, our budget reflects an investment in our people and our facilities, as well as taking into account the impacts of inflation on the cost of construction, goods, and services. The proposed fiscal year 2024 aviation fund budget totals $242.6 million. It's an increase of $40.4 million over fiscal year 23 estimated obligation levels. Overall, the total fiscal year 2024 aviation fund request is $485.4 million, an 8.8% increase from the fiscal year 2023 operating budget estimated obligations of $446.3 million. In closing, I want to thank Council President Clark, Council Member Johnson, and all other council members for the support the aviation team has received over the years. and continues to receive. I'm personally very grateful for the council for the warm welcome that I've received as I arrived in the city of Philadelphia, and very grateful to you for your dedication to all its citizens. We share a vision of equity, diversity, and growth, and I'm eager to partner together in the years ahead. With that, Madam Chair, this concludes my prepared remarks. Along with my team, we are happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony, and just want to thank you and your team for all of your great work. Had the opportunity to visit with the airport prior to you onboarding with our colleague, Councilmember Johnson, who represents the airport, but also recently had the opportunity to visit with you and the team, and just want to say thank you for that opportunity. I know we ran out of time because we covered so much information, but I am looking forward to returning for the tour. I just had a couple quick questions, and then we'll move forward with additional questions. But last year, you all talked about the DOA plans to achieve the level 1 certification for the Northeast Airport and then move up to level 2 at the Philadelphia International Airport. And you know that will require providing 3 years of carbon emissions data and setting emissions reduction targets, and that any plans to continue to level up to level 4. So if you could just provide an update on the certification, and then also an update on how you all are implementing your building energy performance assessment for this year. If you could start there, and then I just have a couple other questions.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Council Member. Api, who's on camera now, oversees our capital development and oversees our sustainability program, including the certifications that you were referencing. She's been, and her team have been doing some great work. I'll defer to her to answer your question. I'll certainly I'll be here in case you need anything from me.
Thank you, Atif, and good afternoon, Council Member. My name is Api Uppalingam, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Capital Development Program. And part of my responsibility is overseeing the sustainability work for the Department of Aviation. I'm so glad that you asked about the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program. I'm happy to report that both of our airports are now part of the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program. So this is the international program that certifies an airport's carbon management efforts. Last year, PHL achieved level 2. So we went up a level, which means that not only are we mapping the sources of emissions, but we are also effectively reducing our emissions. And to your question about PNE, PNE joined the program last year at level 1, which means we have mapped the sources of emissions. And I'm also proud to say that both PHL and PNE are the only airports right now in the state of Pennsylvania to achieve some level in the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program. I hope that answers the first part of your question, Council Member.
Yes, that's great. If you could just keep us updated, because I know PNE is just joining this effort, and we just want to have an update on sort of how that's progressing year over year. In addition to that, I think last year you talked about sort of plans to install the charging stations at 1% of all the public parking spaces for passengers. I think that would result in about 150 charging stations there. Is there a reason why we're only aiming for 1%? Particularly because of EPA's recent announcement regarding the tailpipe emissions, and then also the federal government's sort of overall goal to boost EV sales?
So I don't have the statistics in front of me, and I can get that to you, Council Member. But to the question about our electrification, so absolutely correct. We completed a vehicle and equipment electrification strategic plan last year. And we're moving forward with capital projects now, which includes installation of EV chargers and upgrades to our electrical substation as well. Something that we identified as part of our study is that we need additional capacity to support the electrification of our airport infrastructure. We are moving forward with purchasing electric vehicles for the DOA. And then we're moving forward with installing charging stations for the public. As far as the percent, I don't have that at my fingertip, and I could get that to you, and I could elaborate further on whether that meets any established goals for the state.
Okay, that'll be great. If you could just follow up with that information, because we're also transitioning from a city fleet perspective as well. Last question for this round, and then I'll proceed with my colleagues' questions. But last year, you also talked about the work that you all are doing on the climate adaptation and resilience plan. You talked about the stormwater master plan and the sustainability management plan. There's so much work going on down there. If you could just talk about sort of where you are in process with these plans, when you all plan to present those findings and sort of next steps to all the members of council, and then how are all of the plans that you all working on sort of help us figure out and understand how those larger issues play into the lower south and sort of not just the airport. And then if you could lastly provide any information about the wetlands project in Tinicum and FDR Park, and what analysis has been completed that sort of demonstrates the investment in FDR Park is sufficient enough to offset the changes being made to the airport site.
All right. Love these questions. Love the line of questions. So I'll start with the CARP. So the Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Plan. Absolutely correct. We were in the process of wrapping it up, and I'm happy to say that as of March 31st, we completed the CARP. Climate resiliency is critical for the future of our airports. With the ever-changing global climate conditions, it's so important that we're proactive in preparing PHL for the anticipated effects of climate change. And over the last few years, we evaluated future climate conditions that will affect PHL and assessed our assets that may be vulnerable to climate hazards, such as flooding. And now we're moving forward with initiatives and capital projects that are identified in the CARP. We do have capital projects that are identified that my team is going to be moving forward with shortly. As you can imagine, something like this is a major effort. It's not something that is easy to do, but we have prepared that strategic plan for us to identify funding sources, identify the right team members, and identify a timeline that makes sense for PHL. So we are moving forward with the CARP's initiatives, and I could say that one of the initiatives is for us to align with any type of federal funding that's available. And with the bipartisan infrastructure law, we were able to do that, and we were able to receive part of the cost of a program that we are calling the Terminal Energy Optimization Program. And a lot of those projects in that program help with resiliency, like constructing a new electrical substation, converting to electrification, improving the air quality at PHL. So moving forward with the CARP, council member, and we have a long ways to go, and happy to share this plan with you and anyone else that's interested so that you can see the vision that we have for our airports moving forward. I wrote down FDR Park, but I think that was your last question.
Yes, and if you could just give us an update about the wetlands project in Tinicum and FDR Park, and sort of any analysis that's been completed around that project. And if the investment you all are making, do you believe is it sufficient enough to sort of offset the changes being made at the airport site?
Absolutely. So when we were planning this project at FDR Park, which is mitigating the wetland impact that we have in our existing site, we were not looking at an apples to apples improvement. We were looking at what our existing quality of the wetlands is in our existing parcel and how we can improve that quality when we mitigate that wetland to FDR Park. So what I'm trying to say is that what we're building in FDR Park, the quality of that wetland is so many times more better than the quality of the wetlands that we currently have. So that was what we were focused on, in that it was not just a copy paste kind of a thing, but we were looking at what we had and how we can improve it. And we are moving forward with that project. It's under construction right now. We anticipate completing that project later next year. And when we complete it, we're not just going to walk away from that project. We are going to stay on with that project and monitor the quality of the wetlands and make sure that what we designed and what we intended to design was what was constructed and what is thriving at FDR Park.
Excellent. So only thing that I ask, particularly on this project, because we're getting a lot of feedback, if you could just keep us updated on a more regular basis.
Okay.
Just give us any updates you have month over month so that we understand sort of where we are. Okay.
Absolutely. And I'll wrap up by just saying happy Earth Week and happy early Earth Day. We've been celebrating that for the last week or so. So I know that's important to you, council members.
Yes.
So happy Earth Week.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We actually just celebrated PEA's Earth Week yesterday at City Hall. So thank you for that. Appreciate your work. Long time issue of mine, and just certainly
Yes.
appreciate your expertise. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
I don't see any colleagues in the chat, but I wanted to recognize my colleague, Councilmember Johnson, who represents the airport. I know I saw him come up in the queue earlier. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Did you have any questions?
I did. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Atif and his team. I want to thank Adam as well. And the team just in general for being very, very responsive. And Atif hit the ground running and have taken the reins and has a mission to take the airport to the next level. So I just wanted to publicly say that. And I want to thank you for your responsiveness as you took over leadership at the Philadelphia International Airport. I have a question around two particular areas. One is, in this Philadelphia, we're the #1 big city when it comes to poverty. And there was a recent report from the Economy League of Philadelphia that focuses on the lack of increase in household wages amongst African Americans. Have been pretty stagnant since 2010, but every other ethnic group has significantly increased their level of household income. So for me, it's a very, very eye-opening situation when I look at all the policies and the hard work that we're doing here in the city of Philadelphia, but yet we're not aggressively moving the needle, not only on poverty, but particularly with the African-American community, which is a significant population here in the city of Philadelphia. And so you have two initiatives that you have mentioned in your testimony that I would like for you to elaborate on. One is you talk about surpassing your diversity and inclusion goals, which I think is critically important. And I know your team have always been on the forefront in terms of diversity and inclusion, but can you give us an overview and specific numbers on surpassing that goal? And then also elaborate on your bridge program that's going to focus on increasing diversity and inclusion around hiring and promotion. Because for me, if we're going to address the issue of household inequality as well as poverty in the city of Philadelphia, we have to be very, very intentional, because that's the only way that's going to happen. It's not going to happen happenstance. It's going to happen because we think it's a good thing to do. But if we don't have actual policies in place and aggressively go after changing the trajectory of particularly those who are living in poverty, then we will never get there. So I just wanted to know if you can elaborate on those two initiatives.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councilmember Johnson. Firstly, thanks for your kind remarks. Appreciate all the support that I've received from you since I've been in the office. Your question covers several areas within the airport. As you see, we've got three individuals, two of whom you probably know well, Denise and Delisha. I'm sorry, Beatrice and Delisha, but Denise is somebody that you might not know. I just want to take a moment to introduce you to her and the council members as well. Denise is our Deputy Director of Business Diversity and Accessibility, and we're really, really lucky to have her. She is really an expert in the area that she oversees, with over 30 years of experience in diversity and transportation, even as a Philadelphia-based minority firm. And obviously, our Chief Administrative Officer, Delisha Wiles, and as well as Beatrice, our Deputy of Procurement, all play a role in the overall influence that we are able to exert in moving the needle in the right direction. So let me start with Delisha. Perhaps she can start, and then we can take it from there.
Good morning, Councilmember. Thank you for your question regarding the Bridge program. So the Bridge program is a workforce development program that is designed to reskill and upskill our current employees. The program will allow them to gain the skills, the knowledge, and the abilities that's necessary to advance in their career. So it gives them a higher pay potential, as well as creates an internal pipeline of qualified candidates. So we're looking at our trades positions. Very specifically, to your point, we have about 70% of our employees are people of color. A lot of them are in entry-level positions, and therefore they need an opportunity to learn and gain new skills in order to make more money, right? And so we're providing that through a program. We've been working on, over the past year, a bunch of enabling projects, talking to OHR, partnering with outside schools, speaking to community colleges, and really getting the program up and running. And so we're hoping to launch the program in FY2024. And so we're really happy that we can create this program for our internal staff who will benefit from it, those who have been here, who have showed loyalty to the airport over the course of years. And so we're excited about what this program will bring.
And perhaps Denise, and I'm sorry, go ahead, Council Member. You're good, okay.
No, that's good. And just to follow up regarding surpassing those diversity and inclusion goals.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. Nice to see you again. My name is Denise Bailey. I am the Deputy Director of Aviation for Business Diversity and Accessibility. We understand and share your passion about making sure that we're driving opportunity to all segments of our community. In particular, Black and Brown business has been a focus of ours. I'm going to cover some of the federal goals, and I see my colleague Deetris is here, and she'll talk about some of the locally funded goals. But as you know, we have a robust program at our storefronts in our food and shops program. That overall goal for our concessions program that includes more than just food and shops is 21.3%. We're happy to report that we exceeded that goal and achieved 36.5% this year. In addition, for our storefront in particular locations, that goal is 35%. And this past year, we exceeded that and attained 45%. We also look not just at the numbers, but in making sure that folks have seats at the table. We know that some of our programs may be difficult to understand and challenges in entry to get opportunities. And so we've worked with our peers internally, but also stakeholders across the city to do things like making sure that we make the opportunities more apparent to them and not just informing them of opportunities, but when we have events, coordinating with the diverse chambers of commerce to make sure that Black and Brown businesses specifically get seats at the table when we're discussing opportunities, allowing for networking, and allowing for access to decision makers here at PHL. You might be interested to know that we're launching an ACDBE Academy for those airport concession disadvantaged business enterprises this year to help give them the on-ramp to those methods of success in actually working at an airport location. You might also be interested to know that last year we had 4 Black businesses that opened in our food and shops program, with another 4 that are opening this year. Deetris?
I think you're mute. Deetris.
Apologies. Thank you, Councilman, for the question. My name is Deetris Isaac, and I'm the Deputy of Airport Procurement. And as you stated, the airport does typically meet or exceed our range that is set with OEO for our annual goal, which is 30%. We typically fall between 30 and 32% annually with achieving that goal. And just to piggyback off of what Denise is saying, we have strategically designed a program for this year in collaboration with several departments. So Office of Business Diversity, which is led by Denise, our purchasing unit, which is led by myself, and OPI and Capital Development Group, to ensure that we are designing programs and events that will target our minority businesses in the area and small businesses as well. So we've been very intentional about the content of those programs, making sure that access and exposure education is top of mind when we present. So those are things that we're striving to do to improve our numbers as far as minority contracts. And in our first event was very successful. We received positive feedback from all the attendees. And so we're looking forward to those upcoming events as well. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all three of you for the very detailed overview, and I want to also thank y'all for being supportive of my doing business with the City of Philadelphia initiative that's going to be taking place later this month. And so just keep up the good work. Those are two issues that's very near and dear to my heart. And any way I can be supportive from a partnership standpoint with any of you, don't hesitate to reach out to my office, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
you,
so much,
Councilman.
Councilmember Johnson. And thank you to the team at the airport. Okay, any questions? Any additional questions for the airport? Any additional questions for the airport? Any additional questions for the airport? Seeing none, we thank you so much for your testimony. Just want to give a shout out to Shane for all of his work, for his partnership. But again, thank you so much for your testimony and have a great day.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate it.
Excellent. Next up is Mural Arts. I see Jane Golden is here, and we're excited already. Jane, if you could just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Jane Golden, and I am the Executive Director of Mural Arts Philadelphia. And I want to say a huge thank you to you, Councilperson Gilmore Richardson. You're amazing and awesome. And I know he's not here, but to President Darrell Clark for so many years of service and support. I am deeply, deeply grateful. And thank you to all the city council members and their staff for the opportunity to testify today on our budget. It is a proposed budget of $3,433,320,000. And so I'd like to start this testimony by looking back at our humble beginnings as the Philadelphia Anti-Graffiti Network in the 1980s. While we were initially created to address the rising graffiti crisis in Philly, we almost immediately became more. We became an art education program, an alternative program for graffiti artists that became a citywide yet neighborhood-centric mural making machine. Over the years, we have grown and expanded, and it's very exciting to see. Our programmatic work is increasingly layered and complex, and our stakeholder groups have expanded from a small group of neighbors to city departments, SEPTA, schools, correctional facilities, and social service agencies. We have curated an internationally beloved collection of murals, now over 4,000 works of art. Yay, go Philly! Truly the autobiography of our city. In doing this, we have employed thousands and thousands of artists and worked with extraordinary community leaders who have been the co-authors of our shared visual narrative. Yet, in spite of all this growth and change, our goals for the people we work with remain the same. We want to offer people a voice, to offer our creative and organizational resources in service of citizens across our city. And we want to transform how people see themselves and their community through the vehicle of public art. When we ask community members what's important to them, we demonstrate our faith in the authenticity of their voice and our belief in their right to be seen and be heard. For us, this is a gift that we take very seriously, and we are so grateful to the city for its support. Philadelphia is a complex city. We know that. In our work, we come face to face with the struggles of the city. We see pain and hardship, but in spite of this, in spite of it, we see optimism. We see collective support. We see love and faith and a tremendous hunger for beauty and art. This spirit is contagious, and it propels us to continue holding these stories, everyone's stories, in the light. It is our belief that a clean, safe, and inclusive Philadelphia is within our reach, and that art should be at the forefront of attaining this. All too often, we know this, the arts get pushed to the side, and yet what we have seen clearly and definitively is this: art matters. They must be a central piece of our strategy as a city. So, What has Mural Arts been up to this year? Well, we have been busy bees. We have been hard at work furthering our commitment to address the concerns of Philadelphians across all zip codes. Let's take gun violence as an example. Well, our restorative justice program, the Guild, the Women's Reentry Program, and the Rec Crew, which is our new Advanced Guild program, they were established based on the idea of tackling violence at its roots, with the understanding that the after effects of incarceration exacerbate crime, poverty, and inequity. During this past year, our restorative justice program has served 139 justice-impacted Philadelphians, dispersing over $520,000 in direct payments to our participants while teaching valuable skills and creating pathways to employment. We started our Rec Crew, yay, which is our Advanced Guild program, thanks to the Community Expansion Grant. In partnership with the Department of Park and Rec, thank you, Park and Rec, we have transformed 15 recreation centers in high-violence neighborhoods. And our impact goes far beyond the participants. Rehabilitated and beautified rec centers transform spaces into beautiful havens for the community. It is our firm belief that everyone deserves a second chance, and we are committed to providing that for as many people as possible. One of our participants recently said, and this was very moving, at one point he said, I just accepted I was going to get locked up. I was going to get locked back up. I felt it's so wild out here, you have to have a gun. Then I learned if you change your space, you change your attitude. The Guild gave me that. Our program is life-changing, and we are proud of the work we have done. In Community Murals, which is the heartbeat of our city, we have an impact also on gun violence and racial equity in the city of Philadelphia. These murals contribute to a sense of community pride and belonging that can lead to reductions in gun violence while also creating beauty where there was blight. Someone once said to me, if you impact the environment, you impact the lives of people who are there, and that's what art can do. This process also involves restoring our murals that have faded or they've been built in front of or torn down. When we lose a mural, communities lose defining cultural touchstones in their neighborhood, and many people grieve the loss. In a city where things are moving so fast and there's gentrification everywhere, a mural, a work of art can be the one thing that reminds people of who they are and that their lives count. So we are determined to fight for this collection, and we thank you for investing in citizens' collective history, stories, memories, their hopes, and their dreams. Our Community Murals Department works across every neighborhood in the city, and in this past year, we completed over 140 works of public art and temporary installations while employing, are you ready? 250 artists. 250 artists. Our Porch Light program, and that is our partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. They are great, addresses the crises of substance use, great trauma, homelessness. Color Me Back is our same-day work program. It's very exciting. And we work at the concourse, we partner with SEPTA, and we've expanded into Kensington, beautifying the Emerald Street underpass and other walls nearby, while connecting folks experiencing housing insecurity and economic insecurity with supportive services. During the last year in Kensington alone, we worked with 116 unique individuals and dispersed $43,000 in wages. We also hired 6 formerly unhoused individuals living in Kensington who now have secured housing because of their involvement in our program. Creating pathways and pipelines is a fundamental part of our process. We believe in the potential of everyone. Another important part of our work involves community centers. We take over empty businesses. We go in and we create thriving community centers. We have one in South Philly, South by Southeast. We have one in the far Northeast, Northeast Passage. We have the Kensington storefront at Kensington and Allegheny, and the Tacony Lab. Yay! These community art centers serve diverse populations, anchoring many people into communities that have no other anchor arts institutions anywhere nearby. It's inspiring to see the many free services these centers provide, and they're all free, from printmaking classes to ESL, all while meeting people where they are and uplifting the communities they are based in. We believe strongly that mural arts is a positive presence in these communities, and we are so grateful for the city's support of this work. And certainly, last but not least, is our art education work, our longest standing division. We work with the Office of Children and Families, very grateful to them, to identify schools in high violence areas with little to no arts programming, ensuring we are investing in young people who are not receiving investments elsewhere. Each year, we serve over 2,100 young people, ages 11 to 18, with intensive, ongoing, year-round programs that lift up project-based learning and give our young people a voice. We see their potential, and we want to help them take their ideas to a brilliant conclusion. Just stand by one of the murals they've done. The 18-story mural at 12th and Spruce called Flight, but by Tatiana Fazlolila, and you will feel the majesty of their work. The project is based on the important metaphor of flight in African-American literature, Black people flying from oppression to freedom. When you look up and see this grand figure of a young woman flying over our city and know that young people help create this work of art, it is electrifying. Or go near Norris Square and see Labor in Kenya by Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez and see a young Latina fighting for environmental justice and know our young people were involved. It's empowering and inspiring. What I just detailed is only a small snapshot of what we do. I could go on for hours, but I won't. The bottom line is that we continue to put our city allocation to great use, not only through artistic and programmatic output, but here's how we do it as well. For every dollar the city invests in mural arts, we triple that investment through federal, state, and private dollars. This means our city allocation could not be further from a risky investment. It pays for itself. So I want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, the mayor, the managing director, and city council for your support of our work. It is a great pleasure to be viewed as a civic asset by the city, and we like to think that we are an engine that helps keep the city and residents going, and that we tap into people's heart and soul, and that's what art does. Many of you have heard me say that art ignites change throughout the years, and that is more than a tagline. It is the truth for so many Philadelphians. Artists, workers, mothers, neighbors, Philadelphians everywhere feel an attachment to our work, ownership even. Some of our most vulnerable Philadelphians have stabilized their life by being involved in the Guild or Color Me Back or art education. It is inspiring to see people come into their own, and it is inspiring to see young artists have a place to go for support. Young people who would otherwise go with minimal art education have been introduced to a pathway. Some of them have gone on to become teaching artists, full-time staff at Mural Arts, and some of them are becoming really well-known artists. Creativity, the ability to see, to think, to make that which has not existed before is invaluable in our complex, troubled, inspiring, and wonderful city that we are part of, that we are dedicated to, and that we love. In the words of Elizabeth Alexander, the president of the Mellon Foundation, she says, "The arts offer us a compass or a lantern with which to move through the wilderness and allow us to imagine something different and something better." And I will add, and something hopeful. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to answer questions. I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your testimony, and thank you for your enthusiasm. I can still imagine us being in city council chambers and you hopping at every beginning sentence. So we just thank you for your great work and for your investment in arts and culture here in the city of Philadelphia. I just wanted to get a couple questions on the record before I pass it off to Councilmember Squillo. But how many graduates have you had in the Guild and in the Women's Reentry Program? What is the recidivism rate and employment after graduation?
Our recidivism rate varies between 8 and 10%. So it's good. And yes, and it's about 85% of people are moving on to jobs. And this year we graduated, we had 139, and it's been as high as 150, and sometimes it gets a little lower. It depends on our funding. But like I said, we take the city money and we put it in the pot with other funds and just try to stir it up and try to impact as many people as possible.
Sure, sure. Now, how many additional individuals could you serve with additional funding for that program?
Well, I mean, I think that we could possibly, like, I mean, I would love to see us double the size of the guild, to be honest with you, because we know how much there's such a crying need for these services. And also, I think, council member, I think that mural arts becomes a home.
Right.
It's almost like a family. We're not an ambivalent employer, and we approach everyone with love. And our programs also have a lot of integrity.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your great work. It's a wonderful program with great success rates, and just appreciate all of your work. You know, we talk very often, so I don't have additional questions, and I'll now pass it off to Councilmember Swilla to serve as chair. Thank you, Councilmember Swilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great job. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate, as Councilmember Gilmore Richard just said, your excitement and energy. It's really refreshing in a budget process and a budget hearing. It's normally not that exciting until you come on. But you know, and I always say that, you know, mural arts and the funding that's required from the city, how important it is. And again, it's not just for murals, it's all the other ancillary jobs that you do. And sometimes people get confused when they hear the name mural arts, that it's only about murals. So I think it's important to hear your budget address, because it tells you all the programs that are going on, even the storefront programs and, you know, South by Southeast and the Kensington program. And, you know, they are things that really talk about crime prevention, mental health assets that we deal with. And I know we have contracts with city services, but I know there's such a long waiting list for murals. And is that a resource issue where the waiting list is so long by the time we get to them? Or is it just a matter of not having the people to do the work?
Oh, we have the people to do the work. We have a waiting list of artists who would like to work with us. And we have, as you very well said, and thank you for bringing that up, a waiting list of people who want murals. I think that over the years, there's been a real appetite created for public art. And I think that's a fabulous thing about our city. And, you know, I was just in Austin at South by Southwest presenting with the head of SEPTA on our Color Me Back program. And we went in to hear the head of the Arts and Culture Department in the city of Detroit. And guess what she said? She said she didn't know we were there. She said, we want to be like Philadelphia. I'm like, oh my God. And she said, we're going to catch up to them. I'm like, maybe not. So, but I think it's like so we have this waiting list. And I think, you know, some people go to you and to other council members almost every day. People are requesting a project almost every day. So just the math, it's like hundreds on the waiting list. And
so I know you're not asking for additional resources, but if you had additional resources, would that shorten the list?
It absolutely would. We could do more. We could hire more artists. We could have more work attached to our different programmatic areas. It would be phenomenal. Yes.
All right. Now that's just good to know, because you know, it is. And when people hear that they're getting a mural in their community, they feel like, oh, we finally made it. Like, people do listen to us, they care about us, and now our community means something. So it's, again, not the mural arts is just murals, but it's a big part of what mural arts is all about. And you know, the same day pay program is something that is an amazing project that give people opportunities to, you know, to make a couple dollars and maybe have a future and a job in the future.
That's right.
And that's expanding in this, correct?
Well, we really want it. We would love it expanded. Yes, that would be, we think that we are onto something. I mean, since April of 2019, we have served several thousand people. And, you know, when we first started, people were saying, oh, this won't work. This won't work. You know, I just, like, all those naysayers, we just push them aside. You know, if people say no to us, we're like, we're going around you. So it's been really successful. It's won awards. We were on the Kelly Clarkson show. That was really huge. I mean, but it's been so inspiring. So if you go in the concourse and you see these beautiful murals, you think, well, that's a beautiful mural. But I want everyone to think for a minute, like, center it and think, what is behind that wall? Behind it are constituents or people who worked on it, people with a vision. And then all these people that we work with who suddenly can step back and say, I did that. And they are right. They did it, and they contributed to the built environment of the city. They've also been able to make some money to get maybe on a career path. Like, all these things can happen. I think our work, we're like the quintessential multitasker.
And I would agree with that. And like I said, you do so many amazing jobs that it's really well appreciated, at least by us here on council and the people of the city of Philadelphia. And I wish more of them knew exactly all the things that you did do, so that we could promote it even more. But I'm going to pass on. Councilmember Driscoll, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. I do. I'm jealous of Ms. Golden's energy level there. It's very infectious, so thank you for that in a good way. Look, I agree with you when you said earlier that these community-based programs work, because I can testify in my district, the Tacony Lab, and how important the lab is to my community. You know, it provides a diversified opportunities for my constituents that they would not have otherwise if that lab wasn't there. So you have my support on community-based programs going forward. No question. That's my comment. My question is a twofold. I think there's a sort of a misrepresentation going around that there are few walls remaining to paint. And when we met recently, you told me that is not the fact. And I think we need to let our council colleagues know that there's plenty of walls that need painting and one painting. And I think we need to figure out a way to make sure we can get this done. I would like an update on the project at Lawton Elementary. I don't know, Jane, if you have that today, or you can get that to my office, but that's one that's important, in my district.
Well, thank you for bringing up Lawton, and I think we're on it. It's on its way, which I'm happy to report. And for everyone, once a year we transform a school with the Eagles, and so we do murals inside and outside. And through a generous contribution from the Eagles and the school district, we build a playground. They put down AstroTurf. The Eagles, the entire team, come out it's like 1,000 people on this one day, just transforming the school. And when we tell principals that they were selected, they start to cry and they feel like they won the lottery. That's what, going back to Councilmember Squilla's question, this is what it means to people in the city. It's huge. So no, we are not, and thank you for that question, Councilmember Driscoll, we are not running out of walls. I mean, the truth is, yesterday morning, we spent an hour in Germantown with Councilmember Bass, looking at this 4,600 Seton, right? Just this one area. And we were like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. I'm telling you, I can say within 20 minutes, we had a plan. So people should think commercial corridors, neighborhood residents, recreation centers, schools, like beauty should be everywhere. And there's so many, this is a huge city. Oh my goodness, we'll never run out of sites. And that's good. And because we also have good imagination, if you wind us up and put us anywhere in the city, we'll be like, oh my God, we could do this. So yes, art everywhere. It's great. So what else was your other question? I got so excited by that one.
Right? What would Mural do to address ramp graffiti?
Mike, you're breaking up a little bit, Mike. Councilmember Driscoll, you're breaking up. Can you just ask that question again?
Sure. If given the support, what would Mural Arts do to address the rampant graffiti across the city? And ballpark, what would it cost?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. I think about this all the time because of all those years that I spent with the Anti-Graffiti Network. I think we should go back to doing what we did at Anti-Graffiti, partner with CLIP. We love CLIP. Thank you, Tom Conway. But I really think that we have to think about ways of recruiting some of the graffiti writers who have artistic talent to working with us, making some money, learning a variety of art skills, and putting people to work. Because I think that I just see graffiti, it's like everywhere. And, back in the day, in 1985, people said, you know what, there's nothing that can be done to help. People just want to just throw their hands up. But I'm telling you, through the 10 years I worked at Anti-Graffiti, things changed. And there were tons of young people who worked with us who were like, I'm not going to use a brush. I'm not going to join Anti-Graffiti. But you know what? We offered jobs. So it was interesting. And then once people started painting murals and kids started making their mark on the city in big, bold, beautiful, inspiring ways that was validated by the public, Well, people started to change. And so I think if you partnered us with CLIP and we could work with young people who are out there writing on walls and try to, move them to think about art. And also, spray is a medium. So you could do spray murals. What I say to the kids all the time, my line is it's about permission. If you have permission to do a wall, it's very different. If you don't have permission, it's a violation. But you're talented. You've got all this ability. So let's put it to work in a positive way. And I think that there's a way to crack the code. And I would say because you want enough money where you could actually hire people and do enough. So I would say probably the $300,000 to $500,000 that I would think we could make a difference.
Okay, that's helpful. And we have this MPI initiative now, and expand that to include your department in those dollars. So that's a further conversation than today, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane.
Oh, thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, council member. And with that notion too, I know, Jane, we spoke about even having some type of graffiti walls, places where people can actually do graffiti would be great to see out there somewhere where we can attract the great artists and see them do their wares and maybe promote it. And then through that, look to hire some folks too. So they're doing something positive and then not so much being arrested for doing it, but doing it in a place where you can notice it and then being able to get them interested in doing art somewhere else. So maybe that's something we could look at in the future too. Council Member Thomas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Jane. Good afternoon to the entire team. Everybody's already sung your praises, so you could just add my voice to the choir. Couple questions. First question. We are, and I've been consistent in my advocacy during these budget meetings. We're in the midst of a crisis right now as it relates to hiring issues in the city of Philadelphia. I'm wondering how many classes of young people come through the Guild program. What happens to them after they complete the Guild program? And how many classes do you have per year?
Well, actually, it's 3 times a year we're graduating a class. So, and I would say we try to look out for people over 2 years. The rec crew has been a blessing because we're able to move people who have interest and talent into a more advanced program with additional certifications. And it would be our desire, and I know you and I have talked about this, if there was any way for them to move into a city job. Back in the day at Anti-Graffiti, one of the wonderful things is that so many of the young people came in as part-time, moved up to full-time with Anti-Graffiti. It was temporary. It was like 2 years. And then they moved on to a city job. I mean, it was modest pay, but it was benefits and it was stability and security. I have to say it was phenomenal. And because of that, because sometimes we think as a society, not a city, as a society, we think, well, a 4-week program or a 6-week program is going to change someone's life. And it is not. It's not. It's got to be more sustained, substantive, sustained. I learned that at Anti-Graffiti. We live it now. The more we can give the Guild, the better, and the more opportunities we can have lined up for them, the better. So that would be a dream.
So how many city jobs do you think the Guild program could fill per year if the young people had the pipeline to city employment? And what type of jobs do you think the Guild program will prepare them for?
Well, I think, they're very, they could work at Park and Rec, they could work at Clip, they could work at Streets, they could work, I feel like we're starting to introduce more sort of technology training. So people are becoming more facile with computers. We're partnering with HopeWorks now, which is really exciting. I just think that it would be great, even if it started as a pilot for 25 young people, who were, really showed that they were really ready to move on. In some way, the Guild, as it is like a pre-apprenticeship program. We're getting people ready for a job. Then sort of by the end of their time with us, they're ready to move on. And then the rec crew, I'd like to expand the rec crew, because if we could move people from the Guild into the rec crew, so they have more time with us, a little more advanced training. And then I think if they could then move into a city job, I mean, that would be incredible.
I mean, I hope someone from the administration is listening. It sounds like a win-win to me. We're already putting up a lot of money as it relates to Mural Arts, specifically the Guild program. We have issues as it relates to crime in the city, and the Guild is part of the solution to some of the criminal activities we're seeing. We have issues as it relates to hiring city employees. And again, the Guild can be that pipeline that helps put at least a small dent in some of the issues that we're facing as it relates to attracting people to take, these jobs in public service. That's my line of questioning right there. And that's something that we're going to be advocating for as it relates to this year's budget negotiations. We want to see some type of formalized process so that we can continue to invest more and more into Mural Arts and into the Guild program. And in return, we see a product that we're proud of as it relates to how we invest our money. Not only do we get beautiful arts, restorative justice programming, but then at the end of the journey, we get quality public service to city employees. So thank you, Jane. Thank you to your entire team. We appreciate your leadership.
Oh, thank you so much. And also with the Guild, I just want to say that the transformation of these rec centers has really been phenomenal, because it's how do you create a space that is warm, that is welcoming, that is reflective of the community, where, I think that art it's not like the only part of the solution, but it plays an important role. And the fact that the Guild, they're changing, and then they're changing Philadelphia for the better. So it's this mirror, right, of this wonderful sort of positive growth that's happening. And I think, Councilmember, one of the great things, I love it when the Guild members say to me, Jane, people ask me, did you do the Dr. J mural? You're with Mural Arts? That's so exciting. There's an excitement to being with Mural Arts because of the public art. And so we want to tap into that and put that to work on behalf of as many young people as possible.
I love it. That's amazing. And I think, Jane, one last thing, and I actually just need some clarity on this. So I listened to your testimony, and I also read your testimony. And is it my understanding that 4 out of 5 of your returning citizens that you work with have do not return to any type of criminal activity at all? Are those numbers accurate?
Those numbers are accurate. I mean, I think that I have to say that people feel really we had a potential funder visit our site. They came to the Guild. This is probably back in December. And all she kept saying when she left is, what an optimistic environment. Because we would have this conversation, suddenly people would break out into spontaneous applause, our participants. It's very uplifting.
80% is amazing. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member, and thank you, Jane, for those great answers. As you see the excitement from members here, what it means on council to have this department, Mural Arts Department, is probably one of the most beloved departments citywide. So keep up the great work. Is there any other questions from members of council? Is there any other questions? I guess you're so loved so much, Jane. They just want to have you keep continuing to do your job and hopefully give additional resources to you. So from my mouth to God's ears, it'll happen. So keep up the great work. Thank you for your testimony. And that'll probably call it for this morning's session. If there's nobody else for questions, nobody else to testify. OIT, do we have a timeline on how long the break would be before this afternoon session?
Councilman, this is Bob McDermott. Currently, we are scheduled to return at 1:30 for the fire department.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Thank you for your testimony. We'll now go into recess. We'll be back. Is that on the afternoon link, correct, Bob?
There's just one link for the hearing today.
Okay, on the same link. All right, see you all then. Take care, everyone. Have a good lunch.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Ciao.